I never thought my own family would try to steal my house. The two-story colonial I bought after years of saving every penny while my brother Derek blew through his paychecks. Mom and Dad always favored him, but this crossed a line. That Sunday dinner invitation seemed innocent enough until Dad dropped the bomb that changed everything. Before I tell you how my own parents tried to steal my house from under me, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if family drama makes your own relatives seem normal in comparison. I was 32 years old when my world collapsed. As a software developer for a mid-sized tech company, I had worked my tail off since graduating college. No lavish vacations, no fancy cars, just pure discipline and sacrifice. Every overtime hour, every bonus, every tax return went straight into my savings account. My friends teased me for being the guy who always said I cannot afford it, even when I could. Truth is, I had a dream that kept me going through all those nights of cheap ramen and passed-up concerts. That dream became reality 2 years ago when I finally had enough for a down payment on my own home. Not some cramped apartment or starter condo, but a genuine 3-bedroom house in Oak Ridge, a quiet suburb with good schools and tree-lined streets. The place needed work. Chipped paint, outdated kitchen carpets that had seen better days, but it was mine, all mine. The day I got those keys, I sat alone on the empty living room floor and cried like a baby. 10 years of sacrifice had finally paid off. My brother Derek never understood that kind of delayed gratification. 3 years older than me, at 35, he married young to his college sweetheart, Amanda, and had 2 kids, Jacob 4 and Lily 2. Cute kids, genuinely sweet, but Derek and Amanda struggled constantly with money. Despite making nearly the same salary as me at his marketing job, Derek always seemed to be one paycheck away from disaster. The latest gaming systems, spontaneous weekend getaways, a kitchen remodel they could not afford the money just slipped through their fingers. Mom and Dad always came to the rescue. Down payment assistance for their starter home, bailing them out when they fell behind on car payments, loans that everyone knew would never be repaid. I never complained about this obvious favoritism. Derek had kids after all, and I figured my parents were just trying to make sure their grandchildren had stability. I even helped out myself more than once. Last Christmas, when Derek called in a panic because he could not afford presents for the kids, I sent him $800. When their furnace died during the coldest week of winter, I covered the $2,000 emergency replacement. That is what family does, right? We help each other out. For 2 years I poured my heart, soul, and whatever money I had left into renovating my house, taught myself plumbing by watching videos online, spent weekends laying new hardwood floors, painted every single wall, ceiling, and piece of trim. My coworker Paul joked that I had become a YouTube-certified contractor. The house transformed from a diamond in the rough to the nicest property on the block. Last month, everything changed with a single text message from my mother, Dad, and I would like to come over for Sunday dinner this weekend. We need to discuss something important. I spent that Sunday morning cleaning every inch of my house and preparing a nice pot roast with all the trimmings, my dad's favorite meal. When they arrived, Mom hugged me tightly while Dad walked around examining my latest renovations with approving nods. "The place looks great, Charlie," he said, running his hand along the new kitchen countertop I had installed. "You have really turned it around." Dinner started pleasantly enough. We talked about normal family stuff. Their garden, my job, neighborhood, gossip. But halfway through the meal, Dad cleared his throat in that way. He always does before saying something serious. "So Derek and Amanda are having some housing troubles," he began, setting down his fork. I nodded sympathetically. "Yeah, Derek mentioned they were struggling with their mortgage. Is everything okay?" "Not really," Mom interjected. "Their landlord is selling their rental, and they cannot find another 3-bedroom in their price range. With the housing market, the way it is, they might have to move to a different school district." This was news to me. Last I heard, Derek and Amanda had bought a small house years ago. When had they become renters again? I made a mental note to ask Derek about this later. Dad took a long sip of water, then dropped the bomb. We have been thinking about solutions, and well, it makes the most sense for Derek and his family to move in here. I laughed, assuming this was some kind of joke. Right, because I definitely want to be roommates with my brother and his kids. Nobody laughed with me. My father's expression remained deadly serious. Not as roommates, Charlie, he said slowly, as if explaining something to a child. We think you should give Derek your house. Since your brother has kids, he should get your house. The fork I was holding clattered against my plate. What? It makes perfect sense. Mom continued, as if this was the most reasonable proposal in the world. You are single. You do not need all this space. Derek has 2 growing children who need a yard and their own bedrooms. I stared at them, waiting for someone to crack a smile to reveal this was all an elaborate prank. But their expressions remained earnest, expectant, even as if they genuinely anticipated I would agree to this insanity. You cannot be serious, I finally managed. This is my house. I bought it with my money. I renovated it with my sweat and tears. Why would I just give it away? Dad's expression hardened. Family takes care of family, Charlie. Your brother needs this house more than you do. No, I said, my voice finding its strength. Absolutely not. This is my home. I worked for years to afford it. Mom's eyes narrowed. Do not be selfish, Charlie. Those children deserve stability. I am not being selfish by keeping my own property. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. Derek and Amanda made their choices. I made different ones. That is why I can afford this house, and they cannot. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the plates jump. Those are your niece and nephew you are talking about. Would you really let them suffer? Because you want to keep this big house all to yourself. They are not suffering. They have 2 parents with good jobs. If Derek and Amanda are struggling, maybe they should examine their spending habits instead of expecting me to give them my house. My mother's face contorted in that familiar expression of disappointment she had perfected over the gaze. Years. You have always been the difficult one. Always so selfish. Always thinking only about yourself. The injustice of that statement burned through me like wildfire. Selfish. I have given Derek thousands of dollars over the years. I have never asked for anything in return. How does that make me selfish? That was pocket change. Dad dismissed with a wave of his hand. This is something that would actually make a difference to their lives. I could not believe what I was hearing. All those years of hard work and sacrifice, dismissed as nothing. My own parents sitting in the house I had poured my heart into telling me I had no right to it because I had made the selfish decision not to have children yet. Get out, I said quietly. Excuse me, Dad's face reddened. Get out of my house. Now. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. You do not get to come in here and demand I give away everything I have worked for. My parents exchanged a look I could not quite decipher. Then my mother's lips curled into a smirk that sent chills down my spine. Fine, she said, standing up. If that is how you want to play this, then we will just take it another way. They left without another word. The front door slamming behind them with such force that the family photo on the wall, the one from our last Christmas together, crashed to the floor glass, shattering across the hardwood. I barely slept that night. What did she mean? Take it another way? Surely they would not actually try to force me out of my own home. These were my parents. The people who had raised me taught me right from wrong. This had to be some kind of bizarre misunderstanding. My phone started buzzing at 7 the next morning. First, a text from my Aunt Linda. How could you do this to your own brother? Then one from my cousin Steve Mann. I thought you were better than this. By noon, my social media was flooded with cryptic comments from extended family members, all suggesting I had done something terrible. It became clear my parents had launched a smear campaign telling everyone I was trying to keep my struggling brother and his innocent children homeless out of pure selfishness. No mention of the fact they had demanded I give away my house, just that I had refused to help family in need. When I finally worked up the courage to call Derek directly, his response left me cold. You have always had it easy, Charlie, he said, voice dripping with resentment. Everything always works out for you. Just once you could think about someone besides yourself. Easy. I worked 60-hour weeks for years to afford this house, while you—" He hung up before I could finish. The complete betrayal by my entire family left me reeling. I called in sick to work the next day, unable to focus on anything beyond the crushing weight of this new reality. People who were supposed to love me unconditionally were turning on me because I would not give away the most valuable thing I owned. The following morning, I was awakened by a loud knock. Dragging myself to the door, I found a courier with a certified letter requiring my signature. Still half asleep, I signed for it and tore open the envelope. Inside was a legal document so shocking I had to sit down. My parents were suing me, claiming they had provided the 20% down payment for my house under an oral agreement that I would eventually transfer the property to Derek when he needed it. They had fabricated an entire story, complete with doctored bank statements, suggesting I was merely holding the property temporarily for family use. My hands shook so badly, I could barely dial my phone. What kind of parents would commit fraud against their own son? The weight of this betrayal crushed the air from my lungs, triggering a panic attack like I had never experienced. Gasping for breath on my kitchen floor, I realized I needed legal help immediately. After calling a dozen law offices in a panic, I secured an appointment with Sarah Jackson, an attorney specializing in property disputes. Her hourly rate made my stomach churn. Money I had been saving for a kitchen renovation would now go toward defending my right to keep my own home. "Your parents have no case," Sarah assured me after reviewing my documents. "But that does not mean this will be easy or cheap to fight. Fraudulent lawsuits can still cause significant damage before they are dismissed." What followed was a nightmare of discovery. Sarah's investigative work revealed my parents had not only filed false claims about the house purchase, but had also attempted to access my bank accounts, initiated credit inquiries in my name, and even contacted my employer with vague accusations of family elder abuse, despite my parents being perfectly healthy 60-somethings. The most shocking discovery came when Sarah's team uncovered Derek's substantial gambling debts. Nearly $50,000 owed to online betting sites and casinos explained where all his money had been going. My house was not just a convenient solution to his housing problems, it was a valuable asset that could potentially be leveraged against his debts. Even worse, we discovered, this was not the first time my parents had pulled something like this. My mother's sister had experienced a similar situation years ago, involving a family vacation property. She had ultimately given in to their demands to keep the peace. They had been planning this for months, gathering information about my mortgage, studying property laws, even making copies of my house key during holiday visits to gain access while I was at work. 3 weeks after receiving the lawsuit, I encountered my parents at the courthouse during a preliminary hearing. They stood huddled with their attorney in the hallway, looking smaller, somehow less like the towering figures of my childhood, and more like the desperate, manipulative people they had revealed themselves to be. When they spotted me, Dad approached with the same authoritative stride that had intimidated me as a child. "There is still time to end this amicably," he said, his voice low. "Just sign the house over, and we will drop everything." "Why are you doing this?" I asked, genuinely bewildered. "I am your son too. Derek deserves this more than you," he replied without hesitation. "He has a family to provide for. What do you have?" "Nobody." My mother stepped forward, arms crossed. "You were always the difficult one, always questioning everything, instead of just doing what needed to be done for the family." The words struck deep, confirming what I had always suspected, but never wanted to believe in their eyes. I had always been second best. My accomplishments meant nothing compared to Derek's my needs, always subordinate to his. As we stood there in that sterile courthouse hallway, Derek himself appeared approaching, with the entitled swagger of someone who believed justice was on his side. "Got yourself a fancy lawyer, huh?" he sneered. "Always throwing money at problems, instead of just doing the right thing." Something in me snapped. Years of suppressed resentment, of accepting less, of making excuses for their behavior. It all came pouring out. "The right thing," I laughed, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. "The right thing would be for you to live within your means, instead of gambling away your children's future, and then expecting me to bail you out by giving you my house. Derek's face went pale. You do not know what you are talking about. 50,000 in gambling debts, Derek. That is where your money goes while you cry poverty and send our parents to steal my house. Does Amanda even know? My brother lunged toward me only to be held back by our father. A courthouse security officer approached hand on his radio. Everything okay here? I looked at my family, these people who shared my blood, but had betrayed me in the most fundamental way, and felt a strange calm settle over me. Yes, I said clearly. I was just leaving. I walked away that day with a newfound clarity. This was no misunderstanding, no temporary family squabble. This was who they truly were, and who they had always been. The only difference was that now I could see it clearly. Back in my attorney's office, we mapped out an aggressive strategy. Not only would we fight the fraudulent lawsuit, but we would counter with claims of harassment, defamation, and attempted fraud. Sarah gathered testimony from my neighbors, who had witnessed my parents entering my home when I was at work. My bank provided documentation proving the down payment came solely from my account. My boss wrote a letter confirming the overtime hours I had worked to save for the house. The emotional toll was immense. Each night I returned to a house that no longer felt like the safe haven I had created. I installed security cameras, changed the locks, and even considered moving before reminding myself that surrendering my home would mean they had won. What saved me during this dark period were the unexpected allies who emerged. My coworkers organized meal deliveries when I was too depressed to cook. My neighbor Jeff, a retired security guard, kept an eye on my house when I was away. Even Amanda, Derek's wife, secretly called me after discovering the extent of his gambling and my parents' scheme. I had no idea, she whispered into the phone, children's voices in the background. They told me you had promised to give us the house and were backing out. I am so sorry, Charlie. That call reinforced my resolve. This fight was not just about a house anymore. It was about standing up to bullies even when those bullies were family. 6 months after that fateful Sunday dinner, we had our day in court. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, saw through my parents' fabricated claims immediately. The evidence clearly shows that Mr. Charlie Thompson purchased this property with his own funds, she declared. Furthermore, the documented pattern of unauthorized entry and attempts to access financial accounts suggests a troubling course of conduct by the plaintiffs. Not only did she dismiss their case, but she granted my requests for a restraining order against my parents and brother, and ordered them to pay my legal fees. The look of shock on their faces as the ruling came down is something I will never forget, the absolute certainty of their entitlement crumbling before their eyes. Outside the courthouse, Derek approached me one last time while our parents argued with their attorney. You have ruined everything, he hissed. Where are we supposed to go now? The same place everyone else goes, I replied calmly. Within your means. The weeks following my court victory were simultaneously liberating and devastating. I had protected my home, but at the cost of my family relationships. No more holiday gatherings, no more Sunday dinners, no more being Uncle Charlie to Jacob and Lily. The loss was palpable, a physical ache that woke me up at night. Initially, I retreated into isolation. Work, home, sleep, repeat. My once beloved house felt tainted by the ordeal, each room holding memories of betrayal rather than achievement. I considered selling it just to escape the painful associations, but something in me refused to give them that satisfaction. Instead, I focused on reclaiming my space. I painted every room a different color than before, rearranged furniture, planted new flowers in the garden. Each change was a small act of healing, a way of saying this place is still mine, and it can still bring me joy. The breakthrough came when I discovered a support group for people estranged from family members. Listening to others share similar experiences of betrayal and manipulation helped me understand that what happened was not my fault. The shame I had been carrying, the nagging sense that a good son would have just given up his house, began to dissolve. Family is supposed to build you up, not tear you down, said Miguel, a group member who had cut ties with his abusive parents. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is create boundaries, even if that means walking away. Those words resonated deeply. For the first time, I allowed myself to grieve, not just the family I had lost, but the family I had never really had one, that would value me as much as they valued my brother, one that would celebrate my successes instead of seeing them as resources to be commandeered. Slowly, I began building a new kind of family. I hosted a housewarming party, a rewarming, as my friend Paul called it, and filled my home with people who genuinely cared about me. Coworkers became friends. Neighbors became confidants. My boss, Kevin, who had supported me through the worst of the legal battle, became a mentor and father figure. The most unexpected connection came through Amanda, who left Derek after discovering the full extent of his gambling addiction. She reached out months after the court case, asking if I would be willing to still be part of Jacob and Lily's lives. They missed their uncle, she said during our cautious coffee meeting, and they should know that at least one member of the family keeps his promises. That first supervised visit with my niece and nephew was awkward but healing. They asked innocent questions about why everyone was fighting, and I gave them age-appropriate answers about how sometimes grown-ups disagree. We played in the park, got ice cream, and for a few hours, I remembered what family was supposed to feel like. My therapist, Dr. Rivera, helped me process the complex emotions of maintaining a relationship with the children while having no contact with my brother or parents. You are modeling healthy boundaries for those kids, she assured me, showing them that love does not mean letting people mistreat you. 1 year after the lawsuit, I received a letter from Derek. No apology, just a request for money to help with gambling rehab. I declined, but offered to help him find financial assistance programs instead. He never responded. My parents attempted reconciliation at Christmas, sending gifts and cards, as if nothing had happened. I returned them unopened. Some wounds run too deep for simple bandages, and some trust once broken cannot be repaired with holiday pleasantries. The most profound change was in how I viewed myself. No longer the difficult son or the selfish brother, I recognized my worth was not determined by their assessment. The discipline and determination that helped me buy my house were strengths, not character flaws. My choice to remain single in my 30s was just that, a choice, not a deficiency that made me less deserving of property rights. Today, my house truly feels like home again. The security system remains, but it no longer represents fear, just prudence. I host monthly dinners for my chosen family. The spare bedrooms that my parents thought should belong to Derek's children are now a home office and a guest room where friends stay when they need a place to crash. I still sometimes wonder what might have been had my family respected my boundaries from the beginning. Would we still be in each other's lives? Would I still get to watch Jacob and Lily grow up beyond the occasional visits arranged with Amanda? But I no longer dwell on these questions. The family that tried to take my house taught me that blood relation does not guarantee love or respect. The people who stood by me through the darkest period of my life taught me that family is something you can build for yourself. If there is one thing I have learned through all of this, it is that your worth is not determined by how much others can take from you. True family lifts you up. It does not tear you down. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand your ground and say no to those who would exploit your love and generosity. What about you? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace with family and standing up for yourself? Drop a comment below with your experience, and if this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to hear more stories about finding strength through difficult family situations. Like this video if you believe that sometimes the family we choose is more important than the family we are born into, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to set boundaries, even with the people who raised you. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve to protect what you have worked for, no matter who is trying to take it away.